Most people think they lose the morning because they wake up late, move too slowly, or do not have a routine. That is not the real loss. The real loss happens earlier, in the first quiet seconds after waking, when the mind is still soft and unguarded. Before your feet touch the floor, something reaches for you. A memory, a worry, a pressure, a message you have not opened yet but can already feel. A role you must play, a problem waiting for your name, and without noticing it, you hand over command. The day has not started, yet you are already responding. This is the morning theft no one notices. It is not the theft of time, it is the theft of authorship. That is why so many people wake up tired even after sleeping. Their body rested, but their mind woke up into surrender. They did not choose their first thought. They inherited it. They did not set a direction. They resumed a conflict. Yesterday enters the room before the sun does. The unfinished conversation, the financial pressure, the need to prove something, the low hum of anxiety, it all returns at once and sits on the chest like weight. Then the phone confirms it. Notifications, headlines, noise, demands. In a few minutes, the inner world is crowded. The person is awake but not present, moving but not leading, alive but already pulled. The Stoics saw this problem long before screens existed. They understood that the mind is not destroyed by one great event. It is worn down by unexamined impressions. Something appears, and you immediately agree with it. Something feels urgent, and you obey. Something hurts the ego, and you call it truth. Morning is where this pattern is easiest to see, because nothing has happened yet, and still the mind is already disturbed. This is a hard truth, but it is also good news. If your peace can be stolen before the day begins, then your power can also be reclaimed there. The first victory is not outside you. It is in the moment you notice what is trying to take your mind, and you refuse to hand it over. Think about how often the first minutes of the day become a silent courtroom. You wake up and your mind starts judging everything. I am behind. I should be further ahead. Today will be heavy. I do not want to deal with this. Why did they say that yesterday? Why is my life still like this? None of this is neutral. These are not simple thoughts. These are commands disguised as observations. They shape posture, tone, breath, attention. They decide how you speak to people before you even see them. They decide whether you move with steadiness or agitation. This is why the morning matters more than people think. It is not a productivity trick. It is where interpretation becomes destiny for the next 12 hours. Seneca would remind you that the mind must be trained before it is tested, not after, before. A person who waits for chaos to arrive before trying to become calm will lose every time. Morning is the training ground because it is the one moment when you can still choose your relationship to the day before the day starts demanding things from you. This is where Smartsilence becomes a weapon. Not silence as emptiness, but silence as command. Silence as the refusal to let noise speak first. Silence as a brief return to yourself before the world starts naming you. In that silence, you begin to see the theft clearly. You see how quickly the mind rushes to fear, to comparison, to pressure. And once you see it, you are no longer trapped inside it. Most people do not need more motivation in the morning. They need protection. They need a way to stop treating the first minutes of consciousness like public property. Your mind at dawn cannot be an open market where every fear, memory, and notification gets to enter and bargain for your attention. It must become private ground, governed ground, stoic ground. The day may still be difficult. People may still disappoint you. Plans may still break. But if you stop the theft at the beginning, you meet those things as an owner, not as a captive, and that changes everything. So the question is not whether you have a morning routine. The question is, who speaks first when you wake up? Your fear or your reason? Your habit or your character? Your pressure or your principles? If you do not answer that question deliberately, your day will answer it for you. And once the day answers it, you will spend the next hours trying to recover a self you never established. This is the hidden cost. This is the drain people call stress, when it is really self-abandonment repeated at sunrise. The moment you understand this, the morning stops being ordinary. It becomes sacred in the most practical sense, not because it looks peaceful, but because it decides who will lead. And if you can stop the theft there even once, you begin to feel something rare return. Not excitement, not hype, authority. The quiet authority of a mind that did not rush to kneel. Hold on to that, because the next step is even deeper. It is not only about what steals your mind in the morning. It is about the strange, powerful window that exists before your old identity fully returns. There is a moment each morning that almost no one notices because it passes too fast. You are awake, but not fully assembled. Your name is back, your room is familiar, your responsibilities are waiting, but the full weight of who you think you are has not completely landed yet. This is the window most people waste. They rush to become yesterday again. They pick up the same worries, the same tone, the same emotional posture, and they call it normal because it feels familiar. But familiar is not always true. Familiar is often just repeated. The Stoic sees this early window for what it is, a rare opening where the self is still flexible and can be guided before habit hardens it. This is why mornings feel so different from the rest of the day. Not only because the world is quieter, but because identity is quieter. The stories are not yet shouting. The old grievances have not fully taken their seat. The ego has not finished dressing itself. For a brief stretch of time, you are closer to raw awareness than to performance. Then the machinery returns. The role, the image, the unfinished arguments in your head, the pressure to be seen a certain way, the need to defend who you were yesterday. And once that machinery starts, most people stop choosing. They resume. They become automatic. They call this adulthood, but much of it is just repetition with better clothing. A Stoic morning begins with a very different question. Not what do I need to do today? That comes later. The first question is who am I before my roles begin? Before the messages, before the expectations, before the world reminds me of my history. This is not mystical, it is practical. If you do not meet yourself before your roles take over, you will spend the day confusing your function with your identity. You will think your value rises and falls with your performance. You will think every interruption is an attack. You will think every delay is a personal insult. This is how people become emotionally fragile while appearing productive. They live from role to role and never return to the inner seat where judgment is made. Marcus Aurelius understood this with unusual clarity. He knew that the self you wake up with is not the self you must obey. It is the self you must examine. Some mornings you wake up heavy, some mornings irritated, some mornings blank. None of that is the final authority unless you decide it is. The feeling arrives first, but your judgment gives it a throne. This is where people get trapped. They feel resistance and conclude the day is ruined. They feel anxiety and conclude they are weak. They feel pressure and conclude they must rush. The Stoic interrupts that chain. He says, "This is what I feel, but it is not yet what I am." That pause is everything. That pause keeps a passing mood from becoming a ruling identity. Think of how many people wake up and immediately put on the same invisible armor that exhausted them yesterday. The defensive tone, the cynical interpretation, the inward tension, the emotional stiffness they mistake for strength. They do it so quickly they never realize they had another option. But in that first quiet window, before identity fully returns, there is room to choose a different shape. Not a fake personality, not forced positivity, a truer posture, steadier, more deliberate, less owned by memory. You do not need to become a new person by breakfast. You need to stop becoming the same unconscious person by default. This is where smart silence becomes more than silence. It becomes identity discipline. In silence, you can hear what is trying to reattach itself to you. The old fear says, "Carry me again." The old resentment says, "Remember me first." The old insecurity says, "Build your day around proving me wrong." And because the room is quiet, you can catch the voice before it blends into your personality. You can answer it with reason, not with force, not with denial, but with command. I hear you, but you do not lead today. That one internal line can change the architecture of the next 10 hours. Most people believe identity is fixed because their patterns are strong. The Stoics would say patterns feel like identity only when they go unobserved. Once seen, they become material for training. Morning gives you the cleanest chance to do this, because the mind is not yet crowded. Later in the day, you are negotiating with momentum. In the morning, you are shaping momentum. That is a different kind of power. It is quieter than motivation and stronger than mood. It does not depend on excitement. It depends on awareness and choice. So when you wake up tomorrow, do not rush to recognize yourself the way you always do. Stay with the silence long enough to notice what is trying to return. The old script, the old speed, the old pressure. Then choose what enters and what waits outside. This is how a person begins to live by principle instead of emotional inheritance. This is how the morning becomes a place of authorship, not recovery. And once you understand that identity itself is soft at dawn, the next lesson becomes unavoidable, because if the self is still forming in those first minutes, then the mind at dawn cannot be treated like an open entrance. It must be guarded like a border. At dawn, your mind is not a door. It is a border. Most people treat it like an open entrance, and that is why their peace disappears before breakfast. A door invites passage. A border decides what enters. This distinction changes everything. The first minutes of the morning are not neutral space. They are territorial. Whatever crosses into your mind early gains influence over your breathing, your interpretation, your tone, your pace, and your decisions. If worry enters first, your whole day leans defensive. If comparison enters first, your whole day becomes performance. If noise enters first, your whole day loses internal rhythm. People think they are reacting to life, but often they are only living out whatever crossed the border first. This is why the Stoic does not begin the day by asking what is happening. He begins by deciding what is allowed inside. That sounds strict, but it is actually mercy. A mind without boundaries suffers from every impression. A phone screen lights up, and the nervous system obeys. A message arrives with the wrong tone, and the heart rate changes. A headline appears, and the whole emotional climate shifts. Nothing terrible has happened, yet the body is already bracing. This is not weakness. It is exposure. The mind has no gatekeeper, so every signal behaves like a command. Morning is where this becomes most visible because the border is at its thinnest, and most people leave it undefended. Seneca would have recognized this instantly. He knew that the soul is shaped by what it repeatedly consents to, not once, but daily. Not by dramatic events alone, but by subtle entries. A person who lets agitation enter first each morning slowly becomes easier to agitate. A person who lets resentment enter first becomes skilled at finding offense. A person who lets urgency enter first becomes unable to move without tension. This is how character is formed in secret, not only by what you choose in public, but by what you permit in private when the day is still young and no one is watching. Look at what most people call a normal morning. They wake, they check, they scan, they absorb. They let strangers, algorithms, unresolved conversations, and future fears speak into a mind that has not yet spoken to itself. Then they wonder why their mood feels unstable, why their concentration is weak, why they are already irritated by small things. It is because the border was crossed before command was established. The inner authority arrived late, and when authority arrives late, reaction becomes government. The Stoic response is not to run away from the world. It is to create order before contact. This is a crucial difference. Smart silence is not anti-life. It is anti-invasion. It does not ask you to reject responsibility. It teaches you to meet responsibility from a governed mind. Before input, establish stance. Before news, establish judgment. Before demands, establish breath. This is not a ritual for aesthetics. It is a defense of perception. Because once perception is hijacked, everything that follows becomes harder than it needed to be. There is a reason a small thing can ruin an entire morning when it enters too early. A single message, a delayed reply, a reminder of a bill, a subtle criticism, one careless sentence from someone near you. In a crowded mind, these things are manageable. In an unguarded dawn mind, they can become rulers. They arrive before reason is seated, and so they get interpreted by fear, ego, or fatigue. Then the person spends the next hours trying to recover a center they never protected. This is not bad luck. It is a border issue. A wiser way to wake is simple and difficult. Simple because the principle is clear. Difficult because habit resists it. When you wake, delay entry. Not forever. Just long enough to establish command. Let silence come first. Let your own breath be the first signal your nervous system follows. Let your own reason be the first voice the mind obeys. This changes the sequence, and sequence is power. If the world enters after your center is established, you can evaluate what comes. You can reject what does not deserve your energy. You can answer instead of absorb. You can engage without becoming contaminated by every passing disturbance. This is what people miss when they think Stoicism is only about endurance. Stoicism is also architecture. It asks, how is your inner world designed? Is there a wall where there should be one? Is there a gatekeeper? Is there a standard for entry? Or is everything allowed in because it arrived with urgency? The morning reveals the design honestly. If every external thing gets immediate access, then the design is weak. Not because you are weak, but because your method is. And methods can be rebuilt. So the task is not to become cold or detached. The task is to become selective, to stop treating your mind like public space, to understand that attention is not a passive function, but a moral one. What you admit early becomes what you serve later. The person who learns this begins to move differently, less pulled, less porous, less available to emotional theft. And once you begin guarding the border at dawn, the next pattern becomes impossible to ignore, because many of the pressures that rush into people each morning are not even truly theirs. They are inherited, borrowed, and obeyed without question. Most people wake up and feel urgency before they feel awareness. The body is up, but the mind is already running. There is no clear thought yet, no deliberate judgment, no chosen direction, only movement. A subtle rush enters the room and takes over the nervous system. It says hurry, check, answer, move, fix, catch up. The strange part is that this urgency often has no real object. Nothing is burning, nothing has collapsed, no one is in front of you demanding an answer, yet the pressure feels immediate. This is the habit of borrowed urgency, and it quietly controls more lives than people realize. Borrowed urgency is not the same as responsibility. Responsibility is clear. It knows what matters and when it must be handled. Borrowed urgency is vague and aggressive. It comes from absorbed energy, not from chosen priority. It is built from yesterday's unfinished tension, from digital noise, from comparison, from the fear of falling behind a timeline no one examined. It makes people start the day in defense mode, as if they are already late to a race they never agreed to run. Then they call this discipline, but it is not discipline. It is panic with structure. The Stoics would see this as a failure of inner pacing. They understood that power is not only what you do, but the tempo from which you do it. A rushed mind makes poor judgments even when it is productive. It hears badly, speaks sharply, decides early, and regrets later. It mistakes speed for control because slowing down feels dangerous. But what feels dangerous is often just unfamiliar. Many people have lived under internal pressure for so long that calm feels like laziness. Silence feels irresponsible. Deliberate movement feels weak. This is what borrowed urgency does. It trains a person to distrust steadiness. Look closely at the first 30 minutes of most mornings, and you will see the pattern. A person reaches for a device before they reach for themselves. Their eyes are open, but their attention is outsourced. They absorb messages from other people's priorities. They see the news and inherit the tone of strangers. They remember one pending task and let it stain the whole day. Their breathing shortens. Their shoulders tighten. The mind starts stacking scenarios. What if this goes wrong? What if I do not finish? What if I lose time? The day has not begun, yet the body is already acting as if it failed. This is not caused by the day. It is caused by the pace chosen before the day. Seneca spoke often about the misuse of life, and one of the most modern ways people waste life is by surrendering their tempo to things that have not yet earned it. Not everything deserves immediate emotional speed. Some things need action, but not alarm. Some things need attention, but not inner collapse. A mature mind knows the difference. A trained mind protects that difference in the morning when the tendency to overreact is strongest. This is why smart silence matters here. Silence interrupts borrowed tempo. It breaks the automatic acceleration. It lets you feel the rush without obeying it. When you sit in the first minutes of the day without feeding the urgency, something important happens. You start to see that much of your pressure is inherited language. I need to get ahead. I am behind. I cannot waste time. I have to move now. These phrases sound practical, but often they are emotional reflexes, not intelligent commands. They create heat without clarity. They make the mind busy before it becomes accurate. A Stoic does not reject urgency when it is real. He rejects the habit of manufacturing urgency before reality demands it. That habit drains judgment. It turns mornings into emotional debt. The deeper danger is not that borrowed urgency makes you tired. It makes you available to manipulation. A rushed mind is easy to direct. It clicks what it should question. It agrees to what it should examine. It speaks from tension and then spends the day repairing unnecessary damage. It confuses being fast with being effective. This is why reclaiming your pace is not self-care language. It is self-government. The person who sets his tempo in the morning becomes harder to control because he no longer treats external speed as a command. Marcus Aurelius would likely tell you that the morning is where you must decide the rhythm of your character. Not only your schedule, your character. Will you move like a servant to interruption, or like a man who knows what deserves response and what deserves delay? Will you let the world set your pulse, or will you enter the day with a measured inner cadence that remains intact even when things become noisy? This is not passive. It is precision. It is how reason protects energy. So if you wake up and feel rushed tomorrow, do not immediately trust the feeling. Examine it. Ask what is truly urgent and what is merely loud. Ask what requires action and what only wants access to your nervous system. This question alone can save your morning from becoming a chain reaction. Because once you stop borrowing urgency, you recover something stronger than productivity. You recover pace. And pace creates room for the next practice, the one that turns silence into leadership, where the mind does not just defend itself, but gives itself a clear command before contact with the world. Silence becomes powerful the moment it stops being passive. Most people think silence is only the absence of noise, a temporary break before the real day begins. The Stoic sees it differently. Silence is where authority is established. It is where the mind returns to the seat of command before the world begins its negotiations. If you only use silence to rest, it will help you a little. If you use silence to issue an inner command, it will change the way you live. This is the difference between waking up calm and waking up governed. Calm can disappear with one message. Calm can vanish with one problem, one tone, one unexpected demand. But inner command survives contact. It gives shape to emotion before emotion starts shaping behavior. That is why the first inner command matters so much. It is not a motivational phrase. It is not forced positivity. It is a deliberate instruction from reason to the self. It tells your attention where to stand. It tells your impulses who leads. It tells your day what kind of mind will enter it. Most people already speak to themselves in the morning. The problem is that they do it unconsciously. They wake up and issue silent commands without noticing. This will be a hard day. I am already late. I do not want to deal with people. I need everything to go right. They think these are just thoughts, but they are directives. The body obeys them. The breath obeys them. The face obeys them. The voice obeys them. Then they wonder why the day keeps becoming what they feared. It is because the mind was instructed before the first event even arrived. A Stoic first command interrupts this cycle. It does not deny reality. It prepares for it. Seneca would not tell you to expect comfort. He would tell you to expect life and to meet it with a trained mind. This is why the first command must be sober, clean, and exact. Something like this: today I will meet delay, noise, ego, and pressure, and I will not become them. That line is simple, but it does deep work. It separates events from identity. It reminds you that contact is inevitable, but contamination is optional. It places character before mood. Marcus Aurelius practiced this kind of inner instruction constantly. He did not wait to be surprised by human behavior. He anticipated it, not to become cynical, but to remain steady. Morning is where this becomes practical. Before you open the door to the day, you name what may come, and you define your posture toward it. Not because control is guaranteed, but because orientation is. You may not control what arrives. You can control the inner terms on which you receive it. That is silent authority. There is something else the first inner command does that most people overlook. It reduces negotiation. A weak morning mind negotiates with every impulse. Check this now. Delay that. React to this. Replay that. Defend yourself. Explain yourself. Compare yourself. By mid-morning, the person is mentally exhausted. Not because life was heavy, but because everything required internal debate. Command reduces this friction. When your mind has already been instructed, many impulses lose their voice. You still feel them, but they no longer run the room. This is why the command must come early. If you wait until after the phone, after the rush, after the irritation, you are trying to govern a city that has already been overrun. But if the command comes first, silence becomes structure. It is no longer empty space. It becomes a place where order is formed. Smart silence means using quiet to build stance, not to escape the day, but to enter it intact. The tone of the command matters too. It should feel like truth, not theater. You are not trying to hype yourself up. You are setting law inside your own mind. Speak inwardly as a man would speak before taking responsibility, with clarity and gravity. Today I will move deliberately. I will not lend my peace to small things. I will answer, not absorb. I will keep my pace. I will remember what matters. These are not affirmations in the modern sense. They are principles put into active form. And once the command is spoken, you must let it settle. This is where many people rush again. They say something wise to themselves and then instantly return to noise. Stay 1 minute longer. Let the words become posture. Let the breath align with them. Let your body feel what it means to be led from within. The Stoics understood that philosophy was not information. It was training. Morning is where philosophy leaves the page and enters the nervous system. When you do this consistently, a subtle change appears. You stop entering the day like someone waiting to see what mood will happen to you. You enter like someone who has already chosen his center. Problems still come, messages still interrupt, people still behave badly, But there is a felt difference. You are not starting from zero each time. You are starting from command. And that is why the next lesson matters so much, because even with command, the morning will not always be smooth. Friction will come, and when it does, that is not proof the practice failed. It is proof the training has begun. A difficult morning does not mean you are failing. It means life showed up. This is where most people abandon their practice. They expect the first hour to feel clean, quiet, controlled. Then something disrupts it. A loud sound, a child needing attention, a message that carries tension, a delay that breaks the plan, a mistake that triggers irritation. And instantly the mind says, "It is ruined, I lost it, there is no point." That thought is not realistic. It is just pride wearing the mask of discipline. The Stoic does not measure a morning by how undisturbed it was. He measures it by how he responds when it is disturbed. Morning friction is not an enemy of the practice. It is the practice. If your calm only exists in perfect conditions, it is not calm, it is comfort. Comfort disappears the moment something demands you. Training remains. This is why Stoicism is so brutal and so freeing. It does not promise a smooth day. It promises a steady mind inside an imperfect day. And the morning is the first arena where that steadiness must be tested, because this is when the mind is most sensitive and most likely to react without thought. Think about what usually ruins people early. It is rarely something massive. It is the small interruption that feels like disrespect. The small inconvenience that feels like fate attacking you. The small delay that feels like proof you are behind. The Stoics would call these impressions, and they would say the problem is not the impression itself, but the agreement you give it. The event happens, and you instantly label it as bad, unfair, intolerable. That label hits the body like a threat. The heart tightens, the face hardens, the thoughts sharpen. Now the morning is not simply busy, it is emotionally poisoned. And for what? For a label. Seneca would warn you about this kind of internal violence. Not because he wanted you to be gentle, but because he wanted you to be intelligent. He would say, "You suffer more in imagination than in reality." Morning friction proves it. A message comes, and you do not just read it, you interpret it as betrayal. A plan changes, and you do not just adjust, you interpret it as loss of control. A person speaks bluntly, and you do not just hear words, you interpret it as disrespect. The morning becomes heavy because the mind turns minor events into verdicts about your life. The Stoic move here is not to pretend you do not feel irritation. The Stoic move is to catch the first jump and slow it down, to notice the impulse to react and refuse to be ruled by it. This is where your earlier work becomes real. The border you set in the morning, the pace you reclaimed, the inner command you issued, all of that exists for this moment, because friction will test whether those principles were words or structure. When the test arrives, your task is to create a pause. A small pause, but a sovereign one. That pause is the line between training and collapse. Here is a sharper truth. Many people secretly want the morning to be easy because they want proof they are in control. When the morning becomes messy, they feel exposed. The ego hates this. It says, "I am losing. I look weak. I cannot handle life." But Marcus Aurelius would tell you something that cuts through the drama. You were not born to be protected from difficulty. You were born to meet it with reason. The interruption is not an insult. It is material. It is weight on the bar. Without it, there is no strength being built. So instead of treating friction like failure, treat it like a signal. The signal is simple. Something inside you is still automatic. Something still believes comfort is the condition for peace. Something still confuses inconvenience with danger. That is what the morning reveals. Not to shame you, but to show you exactly where to train. The mind that never faces friction stays childish. The mind that faces it daily becomes adult, not in age, but in command. This is also where you reclaim dignity, because dignity is not posture when things go well. It is posture when the day resists you. It is the ability to remain human in the middle of pressure. If you can keep your tone steady when you are interrupted, you have already won something more valuable than efficiency. If you can keep your pace measured when someone else is frantic, you have already separated yourself from the herd. If you can keep your judgment clean when the world offers you endless reasons to react, you have built a mind that is hard to steal. And there is a quiet reward to this way of living. Once you stop labeling friction as failure, you stop panicking when the morning is imperfect. You recover flexibility. You adjust faster. You speak with more control. You protect the inner center instead of chasing the fantasy of a perfect first hour. That fantasy is what breaks most people. They lose their temper, then they lose hope, then they lose the day. A Stoic refuses that chain. He says, "The day is not ruined. Only my interpretation is loud. I will lower it. I will return to command." Because that is the core of smart silence. Not a morning with no noise, but a morning where noise does not own you. And when you practice this long enough, you begin to notice something deeper. The morning is not just a time block. It is a factory of identity. The way you start becomes the kind of person you become. That is the next step, and it carries more weight than people are willing to admit. You think you are building a day, but the morning is building you. This is the part most people avoid because it makes the stakes uncomfortable. They want mornings to be about getting through tasks, getting energy, getting into motion. Stoicism pulls the lens back and asks a harder question. What kind of person is your first hour creating repeatedly without your permission? Because whatever you practice at the start does not stay at the start. It leaks into your speech, your patience, your standards, your relationships, your self-respect. Morning is not a routine. It is character training disguised as time. Every day you wake up and make a small decision about who leads. Some mornings fear leads. Some mornings urgency leads. Some mornings distraction leads. Some mornings resentment leads. You might not say it out loud, but you feel it. The mind chooses a ruler and everything else falls in line. Then you repeat that pattern often enough and it stops feeling like a choice. It becomes temperament. People say, "I am just anxious. I am just intense. I am just impatient. I am just someone who needs noise." They think they are describing personality. They are describing practiced mornings. This is why Stoicism is so unforgiving and so liberating. It insists that the self is shaped, not by big speeches, but by small repetitions. Marcus Aurelius did not become steady because he had calm days. He became steady because he trained steadiness when calm was not guaranteed. Seneca did not speak about discipline because he enjoyed struggle. He spoke about it because he understood how quickly the mind decays without it. A mind left to habit becomes soft. A mind trained daily becomes strong, not because life gets easier, but because it gets clearer. Look at what happens when your morning starts in reaction. You check something before you breathe. You absorb someone else's tone before you establish your own. You hurry before you think. You do not only lose peace in that moment. You reinforce a version of yourself that is easy to pull. That version becomes more available to irritation, more dependent on stimulation, more fragile under interruption. Over time, you start to feel like life is controlling you, but life is only amplifying what your mornings are rehearsing. Now look at the other path. A morning where you protect entry, a morning where you set pace, a morning where you issue an inner command, a morning where friction becomes training instead of proof of failure. That morning is not just a better morning, it is a vote for a different identity. You are rehearsing a person who does not need to be pushed to move, a person who moves because he chose, a person who can be contacted by reality without being owned by it. The difference is subtle day to day. It becomes obvious after weeks, then undeniable after months. Here is the part no productivity video will tell you. The morning you live most often becomes the emotional climate your nervous system calls normal. If your normal is rushed, calm will feel strange. If your normal is distracted, focus will feel heavy. If your normal is reactive, silence will feel unsafe. This is not because you are broken. It is because the body learns. It adapts to the environment you repeatedly put it in, and the mind follows the body. That is why the first hour is so powerful. It sets the baseline, not only for energy, but for identity. Seneca would say you are always becoming something, even when you think you are just surviving, especially when you think you are just surviving. If you begin each day by surrendering to noise, you become a person who trusts noise. If you begin each day by surrendering to urgency, you become a person who needs urgency to feel alive. If you begin each day by surrendering to fear, you become a person who interprets life as threat. These are not dramatic statements. They are mechanical. The mind becomes what it repeatedly practices, because repetition is education. This is why you must stop treating mornings like an optional aesthetic and start treating them like a silent contract. What you do first is what you will do easier later. What you tolerate first is what you will tolerate more later. What you protect first is what you will protect more later. The first hour is a lever. Small movement there changes the whole system. The person who owns that lever does not need to depend on motivation. Motivation is unstable. Identity is stable, and mornings are where identity is forged. So ask yourself a question that cuts through all excuses. If I lived my mornings the same way for the next year, who would I become? Not what would I accomplish? Who would I become? More patient or more reactive? More present or more distracted? More sovereign or more dependent? The answer is not hidden. It is in what you already do. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. Because now the morning is not just a time of day. It is a mirror that shows you your direction. And this leads to the final turn. Because once you understand that the morning creates the version of you that will face the day, the conclusion becomes simple and ruthless. If you want to rule the day, you must win the dawn. Not once. Not when you feel inspired, but as a practice of sovereignty that makes you difficult to disturb, difficult to distract, and impossible to steal from. If you want proof that you are not free, look at your mornings. Not the big plans you talk about, not the goals you set when you feel hopeful, but the first 10 minutes after waking. That is where the truth lives. Because the morning is when the world has the least access to you, and yet most people still surrender. They surrender to noise, to urgency, to fear, to the need to check, to the need to prove, to the need to rush. Then they spend the rest of the day calling it life, when it is really a quiet kind of captivity repeated at sunrise. Winning the dawn is not about waking up early. It is about waking up owned by yourself. It is the difference between beginning the day as a citizen of your own mind or as a refugee inside it. The world is not waiting to give you peace. The world is waiting to take your attention. If you do not establish authority before contact, the day will establish authority over you. And once the day leads, you will keep reacting, then repairing, then recovering, until night returns, and you call exhaustion a normal life. Stoicism offers a different standard, not comfort, but command, not perfect mornings, but governed mornings. It teaches you to treat the first hour as a threshold where you decide the terms of your own presence. Will you enter the day like a man who already chose his posture, or like someone waiting to see what mood gets assigned? Will you bring a mind that can observe pressure without becoming it, or a mind that turns every impression into a sentence? Will you move with deliberate pace, or will you borrow urgency from things that do not deserve it? These choices sound small. They are not. They are the first bricks of your character, laid down daily. Here is what makes this conclusion sharp. You cannot control what the day brings. You can control what you bring to the day. That is the only real advantage you have. And it is bigger than people think. A person who protects the dawn does not become immune to stress. but he becomes harder to hijack. He does not need silence all day, but he starts the day with silence, so the mind remembers its own voice. He does not try to remove friction, but he uses friction as training so his steadiness becomes real. He does not chase motivation, but he builds identity through repetition, so discipline stops feeling like violence and starts feeling like alignment. Seneca would say that life is long enough when it is lived well, but short enough to punish those who live carelessly. And nothing is more careless than giving away your cleanest attention to things that do not improve your soul. The morning is your cleanest attention. It is the portion of the day before the mind becomes stained by noise. If you squander it, you train the mind to be cheap with itself. If you protect it, you train the mind to respect itself. That respect becomes a quiet force. It follows you into conversations. It follows you into decisions. It follows you into conflict. It follows you into solitude. It becomes the difference between being reactive and being unshakable. So let the final instruction be simple, because simple is what survives. Tomorrow, when you wake up, do not reach for the world first. Reach for yourself. Sit with the first breath. Let your mind become present before it becomes busy. Set the border. Reclaim your pace. Give the first inner command. Expect friction and treat it as training. Remember that the morning is building you whether you guide it or not. And then step into the day, like someone who has already chosen what kind of mind will live inside it. This is what it means to own the morning. Not to make it pretty, but to make it sovereign. The person who wins the dawn stops begging the day to feel better. He enters the day already anchored. And when a mind is anchored, it can face noise without panic, delay without collapse, and pressure without surrender. That is the quiet power of smart silence. You do not need more hours. You need ownership of the first one. And when you take that back, the day does not get easier. You get stronger. You become the one who rules.